Welcome back, everyone. And for the next panel discussion, Navigating Financial Transformation in an Uncertain World, CFO Insights and Strategies for Success. For this, I would like to introduce our moderator, Ms. Rakhi Aswal, Director Finance, Saxo Group. With over a decade of experience in leadership positions in finance domain across varied industries, Ms. Rakhi Aswal have strong grasp on aspects of financial management, including technical account, transfer pricing, direct and indirect taxation, financial reporting, statutory compliance, and corporate governance. Ms. Rakhi have extensive experience in setting up and managing country finance function and leading shared service of global organizations. She have experience in presiding over and actively participating in statutory committees like CSR, POSH, gratuity trust of the organization that I have been part of. She has also held the position in board of directors and been actively involved in strategic decision making of company. Along with her, I would request all the panelists, Mr. Vishal Chowdhry, Director Finance, Keysight Technologies, Mr. Vrindaban Khandelwal, CFO Marposs India, Mr. Yogesh Mittal, CFO JBM Group, Mr. Yashpal Jain, CFO Sandhar Technologies, and Mr. Jaspreet Singh Arora, CFO Cogent East Services. Can we have a huge round of applause for our moderator and all the fellow panelists?
Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to the first panel discussion of the day, Navigating Financial Transformation in an Uncertain World. I think financial transformation, when we say this word, it is probably one of the hottest buzzword in the finance industry today. Undoubtedly, finance transformation is one of the most important or one of the key focus areas for all the CFOs. There was a study done by Gartner which said that while there is a lot of focus on finance transformation, still about 69% of finance transformation programs are progressing slower than projected. Nearly 98% or all of the CFOs responded to another survey which said that their departments have invested in automation technologies like artificial intelligence in the past 12 months, but many reported low rates of digitization across the finance function. Also, the largest number, around 41% of the CFOs said that just 1 quarter or less of their processes have been automated till now. While the focus has been to transform the finance function and also in the recent years, especially after COVID-19, we have definitely seen in finance function that there is the progress or the speed, the pace at which the transformation in finance function is expected, that has definitely accelerated. However, having said that, based on the studies which have been done over last many years, what it says is that only about 30% of the transformation projects succeed. So here we have with us very experienced CFOs, very knowledgeable CFOs who have definitely worked on different kind of transformation projects. So let's try to get more insights on what can be done to make sure that the transformation projects that we undertake are successful. So I'm going to start with you, Vishal. So as a CFO, while we work on a lot of projects, one of the other hats that we wear as CFO is the hat of risk manager for the whole organization, right? So as a CFO, what do you think, or how do you think can we effectively balance the pursuit of growth with risk management, especially in case of the today's world where we see so much of changes, rapid changes happening around us? So how do you think we can balance the pursuit for growth and also the risk management?
Okay, thanks, Rakhi. I'll try and answer it in three parts. The first is the skill that we need to have. So broadly, if I classify the skill that I think any leader should have when you're talking about business growth and risk mitigation both is empathy. Why I say empathy is because you have to be empathetic towards the sales field organization who's trying to bring business into the company so that we can grow, right? So if you don't grow the top line at a profitable rate, then there's no growth. The second thing is what value as a CFO, finance professional you're bringing to the table when somebody is coming to you talking about growth. So what parameters are you evaluating? Are they the right parameters? Are they in line with the current economic or macroeconomic situation, so on and so forth? The third thing I think is you should be well read. So you should understand the impact of the gift city, which was being talked about a little earlier. You should understand the impact of minimum tax, GMT or GTM, which is going to get implemented, OECD regulations, so on and so forth. So you should be able to connect the dots, recent judgments, all of that stuff. So I think that's on the skill side of it. The mitigation starts from your risk appetite. So you have to define the risk appetite for your company. What level of financial risk you're willing to take, what level of brand risk you're willing to take, what level of compliance risk you're willing to take. So if you have that defined very well, then it's very easy to pursue growth because you know that if I'm going after this growth and it fails, where will I get hurt? Will it be a compliance risk? Will it be a financial risk? Will it be a brand risk? And based on that, I can say, yes, I'm willing to take that risk and go after this growth. So I'll give you a very simple example. You know, normally two finance managers or finance directors or CFOs sitting on this table, mostly salespeople come with, "Mujhe ye dhanda lana hai. I need to bring this business in," right? We'll mostly look at financial parameters. Ye customer kitna strong hai, iski balance sheet kya hai, iska P&L kya hai, iski cash flow kya hai, so on and so forth. But do we go peel the onion and say, iski funding kaise ho rahi hai? Is it, what's the debt equity ratio? You know, is it a PE funded organization? What's their growth projections? What have they delivered so far? Which country are they selling to? Which country are they selling from? So on and so forth. So if you connect the dots, you put a value to the risk that you're willing to take. And if you have those skills, I think it's relatively an easy thing to do. But to get there, it takes a lot of experience and effort, which I'm sure everybody on this panel has.
Connect the dots, that's very important. Thank you so much, Vishal. And with that, I would move to Vrindaban. Sir, I think when we talk about transformation, what is synonymous to that is probably technology. So how do you think in case of financial transformation, we can harness the use of technology? How do you think we can use it very effectively?
For financial transformation, the use of technology is very, very important to drive the financial, the business growth. It is of utmost importance. For example, if we start with the, like somebody was giving the example in the morning, we started our accounting with the Bahi Khata or Excel books. I remember I started the accounting with the pen and paper and we used to match the trial balance. That was a big job in our in my starting training period. And now we are talking about the analytical tools. AI is there. So for cloud computing, we are working on the cloud computing. And with the cloud computing, it is possible to have the scalable things and to have the applications, financial applications on demand. And then the AI and machine language, they are helping lot to the CFOs to have the real insight of the data and to align it with the future projections in a sensible manner, to align everything with the business plan and future growth plans. And for risk mitigation also, the AI and ML is helping quite a lot. And with the blockchain technology, we can see now the transparency is there, reliability is there, faster processing is there. With the robotic processes, automation processes, we can see the repetitive tasks have been handed over to the robotic processes. And these all the financial tools and these all the technological tools are helping a lot to the financial transformation.
So technology is definitely one of the most important aspect to look for any kind of financial transformation, definitely. Thank you, sir. So Yogesh, with that, I'll come to you. So when it comes to transformation, we're talking about phenomenal change in the way we do things. And any kind of change is not easy to implement. Like, we call it Newton's first law of inertia. So what do you think, how CFOs can overcome organizational resistance to change during financial transformation? That's, I think, very important for the success of any transformation project.
Right. Thanks, Rakhi, for the question. And as I understand, see, inertia is the natural tendency or the ability to resist the change. This is a natural tendency, be it organization or at a personal level, and let us also accept that change is the only constant in life. The 2004, when we all started with the Excel sheets and Tally, 2014 we transformed to SAP and Oracles. And 2022 we were hit by COVID and work from home started and it's a completely digital transformation which happened. Whether we like it or not, the changes are going to happen. The first thing, it has to start with acceptance. And CFO is not only as a finance or accountant who's going to be driving it, he is going to be playing a key role in bringing in organizational change into it. So the first thing is working on the behavioral issues and understanding that the sales team, the purchase team, the project execution team, they all are going to be going through an uncomfortable position, and it calls many times to have them completely involved. And I would like to second what my friend said about empathy. See, you have to understand their concerns to have them more participative in this process and be able to sort out the issues and create a system which is more effective and foolproof. The second thing is that let us also agree that no one is born perfect. So when you are implementing or transforming from one system to the other, you are not going to achieve the perfect system in one shot. You have to have a draft version first of all, and then keep on building to it. So with acceptance and empathy comes the third part, which is continuity. Now, out of my experience, where I would like to perhaps give a few examples, that see, with every kind of a medicine which remains standard, every body reacts differently. The same way, every organization would react differently. A project company which is under a lot of stress always to create projects and develop projects, always chasing the customers and vendors, they are perhaps going to be in a more stress as compared to a manufacturing organization where the processes are streamlined. It's a matter of just a transformation from an Excel sheet to Tally and Tally to SAP or some other platform, ERP in that case. A service organization would perhaps very differently to it. So the fourth thing, or rather the most important thing, is the understanding the DNA of the enterprise and lead to this change, which ultimately takes time for people to get used to it. And once you achieve that, the stage one, keep on building it on a continuous basis so that you are able to finally achieve an effective process. This is the whole process, and I think as CFOs, we just cannot just announce or say to everybody to every department in the organization that this is going to happen. You have to be involved with every person, and with empathy and understanding be able to ultimately lead it, knowing that there'll be resistance and disturbance, but you have to overcome it, with your skill set. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the follow through is very important with every department or every function that gets impacted with the transformation. Thank you. With that, I'll come to Yashpal ji. Sir, even Yogesh just now touched upon, there are different departments which get impacted in any transformation project. There are various stakeholders that you have to work with in any kind of transformation projects, right? So, as a CFO, when you are implementing any kind of transformation project, how do you make sure that there is a seamless coordination across departments and stakeholders?
Yeah, good morning to all, and thanks for the question. Here I would like to touch upon some practical aspects that how to go about a transformation journey, because what happens is that whenever you go for a transformation journey, it's not alone that you are doing for your own function or for your own segment. So the first and foremost requirement is that one has to carefully analyze that what type of tools, what type of softwares do you really need, taking into consideration the requirements of all the functions and the organization as a whole. So that is a primary requirement. It should not be something like as a CFO or a head of the function, you just mandate the people that we would like to go with this particular tool or like that if it's not usable for the organization. So first and foremost thing is that any transformation journey starts with the coalition of all the people in the organization which are largely affected by the same transformation. If you go with the manufacturing setup, because all industries work in a different sphere, like if I go with the example of my industry, we are into a manufacturing setup. And if particularly we want to automate one function like the material management function. So like the financial chain comes at the last end when you go for the financial booking of the invoice, but the chain starts from the time of the placing of the orders. In fact, the requisitions. So at that time, you need to onboard all the persons connected with the same process. So here, if you really ask me the stakeholders would be all the functions in the organization who are largely affected with the same. At the same time, you need to concentrate also on the regulatory requirements, because whether that tool, whether software can generate the requirements of the regulatory authorities also at the time of filing of your returns, at the time of filing of your informations also. So here you need to onboard all the people, external as well the internal peoples. And one more aspect is that internally, normally whenever a transformation goes, there is always a lot of resistance from the people also. Because the one question that comes to the mind is that whether they are going to lose the job or their jobs will be intact. So that confidence has to be there. Any transformation can be successful if there is a support by the people. That is the most important element. You can bring a world-class technology, you can spend a lot of money, but even if your manpower is reluctant to adopt it, to use it, to deploy it, then you can't do anything. It will just a waste of money for an organization, and at the same time, if it is mandated from your higher-ups like the boards and etc., you would be held accountable that what was the purpose and where it's gone wrong. So what I mean to say is that while planning all these things, transformation, one has to take into account even the small aspect also and onboard the people. Normally, like when we do a transformation, generally we sit with all the cross functions, take their requirements also, take their concerns also, which we might be missing in our, I would say, while preparing the blueprints. And after onboarding them, if you go for a transformation, then I think we can minimize the hassles and it can be successfully implemented. That's what I planned.
I think making sure that everyone is participating at the implementation stage or prior to implementation stage where we understand the requirements, that becomes very important to have an engaged stakeholder management. That would become very important. Thank you for that. With that, I'll move to Jaspreet. Jaspreet, one of the requirements which has now become kind of very, very basic expectation from finance function is to be able to provide real-time data to the business, right? So what do you think are some of the key considerations for CFOs when embracing digital solutions for real-time transparent financial reporting? Because I think this is becoming one of the basic expectation from finance function now.
See, absolutely, Rakhi, you're right. Basic expectation right from finance function today is that it will be a efficient reporting, because all the stakeholders would want to understand how the business is doing. So key considerations, according to me, what a software, what a digital solution should have is on 4 aspects. One, it has to integrate well with my existing systems and processes. Second, it has to be user friendly. The users or the employees who are using it, they should not feel that it is something which is loaded onto them. Third, of course, digital, as in it's a digital solution, so data privacy and data security is of immense concern. And fourth, of course, the cost factor. So now a deep dive into all 4 of these factors. When we say integration with my existing systems, if I have to put on a digital solution for efficient reporting, I will not change my existing ERP. It has to talk to my existing ERP. It has to be a layer on my existing ERP to ensure my databases, my data which is sitting there, that is being pulled out and my reporting is happening from there. If I'm putting AP automation, or if I'm ensuring some sort of a AI for doing my redundant or replicable processes like reconciliations, that has to talk to my existing ERP. Secondly, people factor. People need to adapt to that solution. People need to ensure that they are working onto it rather than I building a new team which is working on that digital solution. Third comes the factor which is of immense importance, which is data security and privacy. In today's world where data theft is a critical issue, we need to ensure that digital solution needs to have some kind of data security in place, user checks built in, that which user has a restriction to use what kind of data in that system. And lastly, the cost factor. What we are talking here is something which does not have a revenue stream of its own. It does not have a ROI factor, so it has to fill in to the budgets, overall budgets of digitization which has been designed for this purpose. So just a quick example on this one. We were implementing a ERP solution for the manufacturing piece of an organization, and what we ended up choosing was a Rolls-Royce instead of what Toyota could have done there. So that right sizing has to come in. So that's the key critical factors.
I think the solution doesn't have to be always the most complicated one, right? It has to be the right one for the problem that we are trying to solve. That becomes very important. Vishal, I'll come back to you. I think we have at a very high level touched upon change management, resistance to change, but overall financial transformation has some ethical implications also. So how do you think can CFOs navigate them effectively?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I'll take some analogies. So one is Bhagavad Gita, karm kiye ja, phal ki chinta mat kar. So I think you have to tell your organization as a leader that we are here to deliver something. And our job here is to deliver it to the best of our abilities, obviously with the challenges, like Jaspreet said, cost, one size does not fit all of that evaluation obviously goes into it. The second thing which I think binds people together is a vision. So if you set a goal which is really, really huge, and I'll give you an example, we were going through a AP transformation, so I was very glad to see the Payables GPT today that was displayed, and we've actually implemented something in-house exactly like that. And the vision that I shared with the team was that I want to be on the stage at a CII conclave and win a gold award. That's my vision. Right? Now, how do we achieve that? That's when your team binds together and they says, wow, we've never done something like this. So that's like, no man has gone to the moon before. Not exactly doing that. But if you set the goal very, very high, it actually binds people together to be a part of that journey. If people are bound together to be a part of that journey, then a lot of the conflicts actually fall aside, because everybody has the same goal that, yes, if this gets accomplished, we will all be on that stage on a CII conclave and win the award, right? Gold, platinum, silver, I don't know what. And the last thing is, which I learned out of attending conferences like this, is there's a quote which has become really, really popular, that AI will not replace humans, humans using AI will. So the last thing that I try and imbibe in the organization that I work for and people that I work for is educate yourself. Keep upskilling yourselves, because this quote is very, very true. Technology will replace human beings, will replace activities. RPA has replaced data entry today, right? So we don't need data entry operators in the future. We need people who can analyze that data, make meaningful interpretations, and create reporting and decision making. So how do you upscale your team? So if you do all three of these together, I think the ethical concerns, the human element, broadly is taken care of. You will have some naysayers who will not want to be a part of the journey, and you can't help it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Vrindavanji, I'll come to you. We talked about ethical aspects, but if we talk about financial transformation projects, we look at both the sustainability side, the long-term sustainability, and then the short-term goals. So how do you think in any such project, how can we balance these two? Because I think now both of these aspects are becoming very, very important. We cannot ignore the long-term sustainability factor also. So how do you think these two can be balanced in any transformation project?
It's a very, very delicate and important task for any CFO to balance the short-term goals with the long-term sustainability. And as a part of short-term goals on daily basis, any CFO is doing the cash forecasting on daily basis just to make sure that the enough liquidity is there in the system to meet the obligations. And then the second major job is the cost control to maintain the profitability of the organization. Then the one major, another part of the CFO short-term goal is the working capital management. Just to make sure that the receivables are under control, inventory levels are at the optimum level, payables are also getting their liability met within due time. And for the long-term sustainability, CFO has to make sure that the proper strategic planning is there, aligning with the organization goal and vision. And then for this purpose, to balance both the things, what I feel that first of all, the KPI should be aligned to measure the balancing of the short-term goals with the long-term sustainability. And then CFO has to engage all the stakeholders just to understand their expectation, like the shareholders, like the customers, like the employees, and to make sure that their expectations are aligned to the organization goal, because all the expectations of everyone cannot be met. It should be in the line of the organization's goals only. And then one has to do the innovation, and future uncertainty also need to be considered. Uncertainties, something can be seen, and most of the uncertainties cannot be seen. Like COVID happened, or geopolitical situation is there, or all of a sudden something new comes up that cannot be foreseen. So for everything, the risk mitigation plans, strategy need to be thought of. And then on real-time basis, the monitoring need to be there. So with these things, there may be some efforts to balance the short-term goals with the long-term sustainability. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yogesh, I said in the beginning that only about 30% of the transformation projects actually succeed. And a lot of times what I've heard from a lot of finance professionals are that while they go through some kind of transformation project and it is successfully implemented also, but after some time what they see is that the kind of result that they wanted, they are not really getting out of that. So I would like to hear from you if there are any lessons that you would like to share with us from some of the successful CFOs who have navigated financial transformations in diverse industries.
Thanks, Rakhi, for those question. From my limited experience, if I were to provide an example or a few examples of failures, is perhaps organizations when they try to streamline the whole AP process, particularly, and doing the entire vendor management and how do you submit the invoice, put an approval process in place and everything. A huge amount of money was spent by the organization. This was from a mandate from the investor, so everything was taken care and a whole participative process was involved. But they had to shelve the project after 6 months perhaps, because ultimately it wasn't effective for the business. The mandate from investors, participation process, a very competent CFO leading it, implementing the process, failed because it couldn't deliver to the business. Now, in one way it is success that it has been implemented, but it had to be shelved and they had to do a complete restructuring after 3 to 6 months because it couldn't meet the business requirements. Similarly, another example which is more critical to what the CFOs are setting is a consolidation. You have several number of project SPVs down below and which is going to be ultimately consolidated at a holdco level. And today we have the SAPs and ERPs and Oracles, but we still need tools to consolidate it. I have seen processes where ultimately if to the group CFO and to the team who's going to be the ultimate consumer of that information which is coming at a consolidated level, if the systems do not deliver, then ultimately no matter how effective it is and how much of dedication and commitment you have done, ultimately it's going to be shelved. At the same time, there are many success stories. The 30% figure is perhaps right. But the point is, how do you define success? And as I said, that you are not going to hit a perfect system on the stage one at the first instant itself. A lot of organizations are falling into this trap of not doing digitalization and not doing a proper transformation because they expect everything to happen in the first go, to have a perfect system and have a perfect child born on the first instance. And if that doesn't happen, they lose the motivation and move forward. Two important lessons out of this whole discussion I would like to say. See, one is that the system has to deliver. You cannot have an ineffective system with all the checks and balances in place, because ultimately the business has to be running on that. So effectiveness of the system. The second is to the organizations as well. In my limited experience, I keep telling to all my associates and friends and listeners, see, it's a process. If it hasn't worked in the first instance, do not give up. Please try. Try to make changes and implement betterments into the system. Ultimately, sooner or later, you will achieve it. A lot of people, when they realize that they haven't hit the perfect system and it's full of anomalies and errors, they just leave it there. The 30% mark will certainly grow if organization behave more maturely and more responsibly towards this. And yes, the system ultimately has to stand on its two legs. May not be immediately, but ultimately. So
yeah, that's a very, I think, important thing which you said, that it cannot be just one project and you're done. It's a long term. It has to be a long term vision of the organization.
I'll just add, the late Mr. Ratan Tata said, take the decision and make it right. So I think that's the gist of it.
We are running out of time, but so very quickly, the last two questions. Yashpalji, we talked about stakeholder management, but what about communication with the board and the larger organization? Because I think board is one of the major sponsors of any kind of transformation project, right? So how do you think that can be done very effectively?
Yeah. So basically, like CFO remains to be a bridge between your larger organization and the board. At the time when you pitch for a transformation or automation, you need to convince your board members, especially that what is the benefit or advantage the organization is going to get from it, and what is the time frame within which this could be achieved. At the same time, when you go back to your, the internal members, or I would say the organization, then they comes up with what is the advantage that we are going to get from this transformation. So at both the aspects, you are being tested, and you have to be very, very clear in what way you want to implement it, or in what way you want to execute it. And secondly, what happens is that whenever, especially when you are a listed company, then it becomes a very more tough job for you, because you have an independent board which you cannot manipulate or influence. So that becomes very important, that you need to take into aspects the requirements of the board as well as the requirements of the organization and the people at large. And you need to do a balanced approach, that I would say, and it's an ongoing process, could not be completed in a single stage. It can go into multiple stages of, I would say, implementation, execution. Lot of corrections are being placed when practically people uses this transformation. It's not something like we manufactured a car and it's on the road. It takes a time. So one has to give a time. Patience is a key to its success. That's what I would say.
Lastly, Jaspreet, I would like to ask you, now CFOs are taking more responsibility when it comes to the transformation projects across the organization. What role do you think leadership of the organization and CFO in particular plays to inspire the teams to have a successful transformation?
Rakhi, I believe all of us has been a part of this journey of transformation. We are partner to the management. We are eyes and ears of our board of directors, eyes and ears of the shareholders. We are an ally to our CEO. We have to achieve that growth. So being a part of leadership team and having that CFO title gives us a dual responsibility. One, we have to work on the vision, and second, we have to ensure implementation of that vision by conveying that to the teams. So change management is one of the bigger aspects which I feel has to be deployed. People have to be ensure that they work on this change management. The kind of aversiveness which we were talking about, that should not be really the case. I'll be the first one to start with any digital transformation, any journey towards it, and then tell people that they need to embrace it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Do we have time for just a few questions, if there are any? Are there any questions that you would like to ask the panelists? No questions? Okay. I think with that, I think we can wrap it up now. I'm definitely going back with a lot of insights. Some of those I have also made a note of. I think one of the most important thing to remember here is that transformation is not a one-time project that you just do one project and you're done with that. To have a successful transformation in finance function or in any organization, we have to understand that it has to be a long-term goal and vision of the company, of finance function, and CFOs and the leadership plays a huge role in that. I think connecting the dots, which Vishal said, that makes a lot of sense if we really want to have a successful transformation project. With that, I thank all the panelists for their insights. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to us.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I request everyone to please stay back on the stage. And to do the honors, I would request Mr. Nitin Tuliani from RSWM Group to do the felicitations.